Whoa, what's that coming in for service? Look at it, just like a lion in all its glory. Alright, let's get it on the stand and start working, shall we? We are going to treat this machine with the care it deserves. So, let's kick things off by removing the tank. Taking off the tank feels like we're revealing some old mystery. And hey, under the tank is where all the hidden treasures are. We're exploring those with extra care. After the tank, we get into the serious stuff. Before we dive in though, the first rule of the job, secure the bike on the lift. We don't want it tipping over when we start loosening bolts. Safety first, so we're good to go. Once that's sorted, we move on to the headlight assembly. This beauty has got some serious bling up front, but even that has to go. Before we get to the forks and cone set, it's time to jack the bike up. We need the front end elevated, giving it that little nose in the air look. First to come out are the brake calipers and tires. Let's not forget them. Then, we tackle the shocks, the handlebar, and the trusty T-plate. Now, we get to the lock nut, which, after loosening, brings us to our star, the cone set. Let's check this first. Good news, the cone set seems fine. Just a bit of greasing and it's good as new. And by the way, we did a quick test ride before starting and noticed the shocks were slightly off. So, we're putting it back together temporarily, just enough to send it off to the turner for proper alignment. Next, out comes the airbox and the air filter. Let's just say they've been doing their job. Lots of dust, a little wear, but that's where we come in. Meanwhile, let's have a look at the throttle body. Here it is, sitting there like it's got nothing to do with us, but we'll work on it soon enough. After removing the spark plugs, we get to the best part, cleaning the throttle body. Nothing like seeing it shiny and spotless. Once it's squeaky clean, just as we're wrapping that up, the forks come back from the turner, all set and aligned. Using a vernier caliper, we measure and adjust the fork height precisely. The front wheel bearings are given some grease love too. And back they go. With the brake calipers fitted, it's time to drain the old brake oil and replace it. After that is done, we head to bleeding the front brakes. A good bleeding and voila, that's the front service done. Now, on to the rear side. Once the front is sorted, we shift the jack from the front to the back of the bike. Ratchet straps move to the front for extra security. Don't want any surprise tumbles here. The rear brake calipers and wheel are unmounted, and we're all set to take out the swing arm and give it a thorough greasing. First, off comes the mudguard. Then, we undo the shock mounts and loosen the central axle. And there it is. The swing arm comes off. Look at these pin bearings. They're nestled in the swing arm, shock mounts, and shock absorbers. Each one needs to be carefully removed, cleaned, and greased. Yes, it's time-consuming, but the smoothness in the rear movement afterward, totally worth it. With everything cleaned and greased, we fit the central axle back in, which means we can now mount the swing arm back onto the bike. Next up, greasing the rear wheel bearings. Once the rear wheel axle is cleaned, greased and mounted back, we are ready to lower the jack and fit the rear brake caliper in place. Then, a quick bleed for good measure. And now, the throttle cables. A bit of lubrication and back goes the throttle body to its rightful place. You know what comes next. Calibrating the pistons with the vacuum pump. After attaching the tubes and tank for fuel, we fire her up. That's the before, and with a few tweaks, here's the after. Look at those readings. Isn't that amazing? We also changed the old spark plugs into these new ones. Last steps: reassembling the airbox, fitting the petrol tank, and snapping the side panels back on. Almost there. Next on the list, drain the engine oil and replace the old oil filter. We are using Schaefer's 10W47000, top-notch stuff for this beast. And before she leaves us, let's hear that exhaust note, shall we? After a nice wash, here's the final look. Now that's one satisfied machine. For more content like this, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button.